Welcome to 50 Plus Home and Gardening. January is a great time to bring back old memories. A way to start is maybe some old albums to look through, get some stories that you've forgotten. Maybe you want to tell your grandchildren so that you don't forget and that they remember with you. Jeffrey and I are going to go through some memories of some of our past to how we got to this house and how we became even gardeners. I'm going to give you some videos of little Nero. There's just some cute pictures that I just want you to see right at the beginning.
What else?
What is so funny?
You're getting pretty good at this.
Is that your kitty? Is that your baby? Your kitty?
I've been bilingual this whole time. I didn't even know it. This week we challenged our...
I get to love you. It's the best thing that I'll ever do.
Oh, punch in the face. Oh, punch in the face. Oh, punch in the face.
Okay.
And now a little bit of Jack, who is our other grandchild. These memories are just so fun, so I wanted you to enjoy this too.
Come on.
What if I told you you have the power to give someone hope far beyond the wildest dream?
Go.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Acorn number 1.
You'd like the fresh corn, but somebody else got to have it. Throw them in.
Good job! And that was in the deep end. Mama's gonna be so proud. Let's watch it, Jack.
Can you raise on your legs?
And then there's me protecting my food.
Grew up in Southern California in a little town that was known as Sunnymead. 5, 7, 10,000 people, I forget. And east of Los Angeles, about 2 hours in the desert. I met Marie for the first time probably in junior high, middle school years, probably saw her. She was a friend of my sister's, came over. Who is that girl? But then in high school, we both sang in the choir together, which was a lot of fun. I was a tenor, she was a soprano. But she sat across the room in the choir class, and I just thought she was about the prettiest thing in the school, and so I sang really loud, I guess. I don't know. So I asked Marie to marry me, and we got married in 1982, and went on. Years later, 87, we had our first child. We had our daughter, Sarah, who was born. She was born when we were stationed in Hawaii with the U.S. Navy. And Sarah's now 37 or 38 years old, and she's still my little baby, but I miss her dearly. Sarah lives in Indiana with her husband, our son-in-law, and our 2 grandsons. He is a doctoral student at a university there. I'd have to blame the U.S. Navy for bringing us out here. The second half of my naval career, I was stationed out here in Virginia. All the years we lived down in the Tidewater area of Virginia, near the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. We used to go up to Shenandoah, into the Shenandoah Mountains for long weekends and a hotel night out or whatever. It was just, this was the place that we were drawn to. It's so beautiful. The rolling hills, the countryside, the cattle ranches and the farming, the Blue Ridge Parkway, everything about the Shenandoah Mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, is beautiful from our point of view. So when it came time to find a place to settle down and maybe semi-retire, this is where we landed. We looked at hundreds of houses, but we came up this road looking for this particular house, and just on the road at the same time, Marie and I both were thinking, we didn't share this until later, but we were both thinking this may be the place. It's such a beautiful place. And the little house appears to us. There's cattle ranches on all sides, mountains behind us, pastures in front of us, an old Victorian home just across the way, no neighbors too close, and plenty of room for gardening. We just picked it together, and here we are. Gardening is a new thing for me. I've always loved going in gardens and viewing gardens, participating in gardening, but I liked gardening only because it was my wife's favorite pastime. And I like her, so I like gardening. But as far as gardening myself, it's a new thing to me. I'm drawn to it a little bit now because I have the land and the space and the time and the leisure to do so. But also because gardens have always brought peace and tranquility to me. And so I'm kind of looking for some peace and quiet. And so the idea of being able to sit in a garden and tend to my vegetables appeals to me more now. Well, Marie started gardening, golly, her first little garden was just this sort of a window box on our back patio. We lived in an apartment on the 2nd story. It was such a delight to her that her gardens have grown and grown and grown. And now she has acres and acres of stuff. And she's got big plots, and she's designing her gardens to look like Williamsburg and Colonial Williamsburg and things like that. She's really grown and expanded her gardens over the years, and they're all beautiful. Now, if you came to our house in the spring or the summer, you would be delighted because her gardens are wonderful. I suppose it's a cliche, but English gardens, traditional English gardens, appear to us very messy. The cliche of French gardens is that they're all these meticulously groomed and trimmed. Where do you fall in between those two extremes?
I think I like gardens that are very clean and neat. I don't really like messy, so I probably don't like the English style willy-nilly. I kind of did that in my first garden, and I realized that all I wanted to do is cut down everything. So I think I like a little bit more structure. I like things the same size. That's why I like to do drifts. They're good for seeing the same thing and your eye just flows, and it's very comforting.
Years ago, one of your first gardens just had a million different plants in it. You selected plants from all over the nursery. But in more recent years, you've narrowed that down to fewer plants. How do you select the plants that you will put into your garden now?
Since I've gardened for 40 years, I have seen a lot of plants that didn't work in our rain. We have really hard rain and it just crushes plants. I had some Shasta daisies that looked so gorgeous in May, and then in June we had some crashing rains, and then they were all sprawled out all over the ground, and they never recovered. So I have learned a lot about Virginia's rains, pouring down rains. And so I have to have things with steady stems and is able to handle as much water as we have. So that's the kind of plants I look for. Really tried and true. Looking around your neighborhood is the best way to look at garden plants that really live well in your neighborhood, because it's most likely it lives in the climate that you have.
After 35 years of gardening, what are some of your biggest garden successes?
The thing I've learned most in gardening is not to do a lot of plants that are different. Because if you do a plant here, a plant here, a plant there, your eye never gets a rest. And I learned that in my first garden. Someone said, your garden kind of looks like a little nursery. And it really did. When I looked out there, you couldn't rest your eye on anything. So I learned something about drifts. A whole row of Nandinas, a whole row of Autumn Joy sedum, or a whole row of creeping phlox. Anything to make your eye look at the same thing for a long drift. That is relaxing in a garden. So that's one thing I really learned, and my gardens look a lot more successful now that I've learned that about me. Because, you know, when you go into the garden center, you love everything and you want to buy everything. But I've learned you have to buy 8 to 9 plants of one so that you can get a drift of, isn't that pretty? And then that special plant will be there while it's blooming in a large area, and your eye is just going to be drawn to that. Gardening is not one and done. It's never going to be done. And you're always going to have problems. You're going to have bugs, something dies, you have to change out things. So realize that garden is a joy forever. It's a joy for a long time. And it's something you must enjoy for many, 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 many years, up until we die. I want you to enjoy your gardens and don't just take it to where you have to feel like, oh, I have to get it all done this time and then it's one and done. No, do it for exercise, do it to have peace out in the garden, and do it for the joy of just enjoying being outside. So keep moving, keep gardening, and stay creative. And I'll see you next time.